How's it going, and welcome back to another video. So a few days ago I released my review of the Sigma 16mm f1.4 and it had a great response. Thank you everybody who watched that, liked it, and all the subscribers. I got like a few hundred subscribers. That's awesome. So in the comment section of that video there were lots of questions about different things about the lens, so I decided I'll do a follow-up video and try and answer as many of those as possible. So I went through the comments and I picked out all the questions. And here's a quick list of what they will be. We've got full frame compatibility, clear image zoom, eye autofocus, the infinity focus, manual focus sensitivity, chromatic aberration, barrel distortion vignetting, and focus breathing. We're going to cover all those in this video. It should be pretty quick, so let's jump right in. All right, so right off the bat we have got full frame compatibility. This lens here is designed for APS-C size sensors. However, you can mount it to the A7 series full frame cameras. However, you will get some vignetting similar to this. I don't know where it lands, I don't have a full frame camera, but you will get vignetting like you see here. Secondly is clear image zoom. How well does that work, and how does the sharpness hold up when you jump in to an image like that? So I did a couple quick tests with clear image zoom using 4K, 24p, and the results were pretty outstanding. It was absolutely tack sharp. You can zoom up to 2x with clear image zoom, so that takes us from a 16mm lens up to a 32mm lens. And you still have buttery smooth bokeh and a very shallow depth of field because it still acts like a 32mm f2.8, which is still pretty snappy. So as you can see here, the images are just absolutely crystal clear, and you can actually get pretty close to macro shots using clear image zoom with this lens. So this thing gets big thumbs up on the clear image zoom. The next thing that people ask a lot about was the eye autofocus. Sony has got a feature with their autofocus where it will lock on, it uses face detection, picks your eye out, and will stick to your eye as you move around and stay focused right on your eye. So I moved around a lot in this frame here, and I even turned my head completely 90 degrees to the side, and it stayed locked on with the eye autofocus. Occasionally, if I moved it around too fast, it would go back to just face detection, but it would quickly pick up my eye again and focus right there. Another one is somebody commented asking if their lens was defective because the infinity focus was not at infinity. He said when you pointed it up at the stars, cranked it all the way to infinity, everything was out of focus. And that's pretty typical. Most lenses can focus past infinity. Some have hard stops, but a lot of more modern lenses can focus past infinity. And that's exactly what this one does, but to a ridiculous extent. As you can see here, the stars are in focus closer to the halfway point on the focusing bar, and it goes way beyond that to where it defocuses the stars so much you can't even see them. So this is kind of a weird decision. Maybe they're using the same geometry for future or different lens iterations, and that's just part of the mechanism and how it works. I honestly don't know, but the lens isn't broken. That's just how it is. Some people also ask about the focus by wire system and how the manual focusing works. It's actually really good. I said in my initial review that it was probably going to be pretty finicky because most focus by wire systems are, but this one does a pretty good job. After getting used to it a little bit, it stays very consistent and it's very predictable, so you can pull focus pretty quickly and pretty accurately without any trouble. As you can see here, I can focus from the markers to the pens with no problem, and once I got used to it, I thought I got pretty good. So somebody mentioned in passing that there was no focus breathing with this lens. Focus breathing is when you go from minimum focus to infinity focus, it actually changes the field of view. So if you've got a 50mm lens, it has got focus breathing. It may be 50mm at infinity, but when you focus all the way to minimum focus, it may be like a 47 or a 53. It just changes based on where the focus is. So this lens was pretty good. It had a little bit of focus breathing. If you look on the right hand side, you can see the holes kind of go in and out of frame. As I go from infinity focus back to close focus, I did stop this down to f11 so it would stay as in focus as possible while I tried this out. And the focus breathing I don't think will be the problem. I've never had to worry about focus breathing in what I do, but I know that videographers take a close look at that because they don't want to pull focus and change framing. So this lens does a pretty good job. I'm not really in a position to make a call whether it's good or bad, but there it is. So finally, let's get to some image quality stuff. Somebody commented and said that my opinion was essentially invalid because I paid money for the lens and I wanted it to be better than it really was. So let's take a look at some of the things that person mentioned. They were barrel distortion, chromatic aberration, and vignetting. So let's jump right in here and look at the chromatic aberration. So this here was wide open, and this is an incredibly difficult scenario here with all these tiny little twigs with a bright background. If we jump into 1:1 at f1.4, keep in mind, you can't really see anything wrong with this picture. If you look right here in the middle, there's nothing wrong. You would think that that was an incredibly sharp image for being f1.4. And looking around, there's some out of focus areas over here, but all in all, this is a spectacular picture. So let's go ahead and crank it into 2:1. Looking at this picture at 2:1, there is a little bit of fringing around the twigs. Let's take it all the way in. And here you can see a little bit of red, a little bit of green, nothing really to speak of. You don't really realize the faults in this picture until you compare it to the f5.6 image. Looking at this at 2:1, it's immediately apparent that there is some kind of haziness and light bleed almost over onto these branches. And in the f5.6, you can see that there is less magenta color on the twigs. So yes, there is a little bit of chromatic aberration. Is there enough to make any difference at all? I would say absolutely not. As far as chromatic aberration goes, this lens is up there with some of the best lenses I reviewed. So the chromatic aberration is almost a complete non-issue. None of your pictures that you will take with this lens will be unusable because of chromatic aberration. So next, let's look at the barrel distortion. I said in my original review that the barrel distortion was there and it is correctable in post. So here's a picture that has got significant barrel distortion upon first glance, but we go over to the Develop tab, click this one button, and it's gone. That's literally all it takes. There's no detrimental effects to the image. It's pretty much perfect. It's ready to roll. So I took a few up-close shots, really up-close shots, and far-away shots. All of them displayed some barrel distortion with this lens, but again, it pretty much is completely fixed by checking the Enable Profile Corrections. So this is a non-issue again. Now finally, there is the vignetting. So when a lens has got bad vignetting, typically it is improved by stopping down. So if we look at this image at f1.4 and compare it to the f11 image, there should be a significant difference here. You can see that the entire image is a slightly different exposure, and you can also see that I had dust on my sensor when I stopped down that far. So what I'm going to do to make this more apples to apples is go into the Develop tab and bump the exposure down just a touch, not much, just enough to make this more directly comparable. Okay, so we've got f1.4 and f11. The difference between the two is almost non-existent. There is the slightest bit of an improvement on the vignetting that is supposedly apparent in these images, but that's really, there's nothing there to speak of. Now if we go into the lens corrections again and select Enable Profile Corrections, I think it actually overdoes the vignetting correction and almost washes it out, makes it like a white vignette, which looks really bad. I found that it's easiest to tell on these pictures of the house sighting. That's when you hit Enable Profile Corrections. You can see how it looks washed out around the edges. I found that taking this down to about 25 gives you the most even color across the whole image. So the vignetting in this lens is again close to none. So hopefully this video didn't end up too long, and hopefully it covered every question that wasn't answered in my original review. If you haven't seen that video yet, check it out up here. If you're interested in buying this lens, use the links down below. That helps this channel, and I would love that. And finally, real soon, I'm going to be taking this lens and putting it head-to-head against several other lenses I own. I'm also going to be taking it out and doing some astrophotography with it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss those videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.